Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Adobe Live. My name is Hranitzky, and I'm joined today with the wonderful Tim Möbest. It's not Michael, but it's Tim. So hello, Tim.
Yeah. Hi, Robert. How are you? Yes, it's indeed me. Surprise, surprise. We had some issues with scheduling today, unfortunately. So Michael won't join us today. However, we're looking into that, and we will update you as soon as possible, of course, on our Discord. So instead, you will
So we have reversed roles, right? So today I'm hosting Tim because Tim is going to show you some fantastic stuff in After Effects.
That's it. Yes. Usually when Robert is joining me and I'm hosting, then I can get to learn a lot of stuff online with Robert together. However, today it's going to be me as a guest, and Robert will be joining me as a host and hopefully helping me out if I get stuck somewhere along the way in After Effects today.
We might do it interactively, you know, like maybe I'll join my screen and share my screen as well. So depends on what you do and what I can pull out of my head. But let's see for the chat who's joined. I see Jane, I see Ali, Sophia, Stefan, Oliver, Sean, Linda. Wow, okay, it's a pretty full house. Umacorn.
Busy chat today.
Emma is here as well. Hello, Julia. So if you're joining on YouTube, make sure to join the stream on Behance, because that's where the magic happens, and that's where you actually can interact with us and join the chat, ask questions, and give us some feedback if you want.
Yep. And listen to the wonderful construction noise that's going on outside, as always, whenever we try to do a live stream. Everyone is starting their power tools and just...
Bernd is here as well. Hello, Bernd. Haven't seen you in a long time. That's crazy. An old friend of mine. That's good to see. Cool. Gareth is here as well.
Hello.
Wonderful.
Right. Shall we get started then?
Yes, of course.
Let's do it. Okay.
The stage is yours, Tim.
I'm so excited, and I just can't hide it. Right, so today it's going to be all about time. We will become Time Lords, and we'll control time with our own hands and After Effects. So...
That sounds epic, man.
It is epic. Who could ever say, I can control time? Well, after this stream, you can say that. Right, so there we are. Let's jump on over to After Effects. This is After Effects, if you have never seen it before. And perhaps we will have to move the camera along the way at some point, but right now I think we're okay down there in the corner. So, as every project starts out, let's create our own first composition of today, which is super easy. I just click on New Composition and give it a name, and we'll call that Time Lords. Right. And width, height, yep, that's fine. Pixel aspect ratio, we don't care about that. Frame rate, yep, that's cool. Time, duration, 30 seconds, great. Background color, let's use black. There we are, and click OK. And there we have our very own first composition in the composition window. Now what I would like to do is, since we want to become Time Lords today, or Time Ladies, now I would like to talk about the time displacement effect, which is a heavily underused effect in After Effects, in my opinion. So hopefully after this stream today, you will know a few things about how to use it and why it can be really, really fun. And I thought
one additional point, Tim, I'd like to add at this point before we jump into actual time. I wanted to mention the frames per second because we were just discussing that last week here in our studio. 24 versus 25 versus 30 frames per second. I think it's also important to keep that in mind when doing this, what we do right now, because sometimes it's easier to divide time by even numbers, for example.
Mm-hmm.
So that is one point. But the other point is we switched to create, for example, motion graphics and trailers and stuff like that. If it's not necessarily, doesn't have to necessarily be 24 or 25 frames per second, but the client leaves it up to us, we change it to 30 frames per second because this will result in a much smoother image. Also, if you look at most of the screens, there's 60 and 120 hertz. So if you divide that by 2, 30 is most of the time smoother than 25. And also it is smoother because you have 20% more frames that actually the animation can play with.
After Effects, now with 20% more frames.
Yeah.
And now that you said that, of course, what Robert is talking about for those math nerds out there is highly composite numbers, as we all know. These numbers have the great advantage of having many different divisors, whatever, such as 24. You can divide it in all these numbers, and 36 and these. You might have known 48 and 60. 60 is a great number. You can divide it in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10, 12, 15, 20, 30, and 60 equal parts. That's the cool thing about that. So if you pick one of these frame numbers on the left side, you have all these different ways to divide them into equal parts, and that can be very beneficial for upscaling, downscaling the time resolution. However, that's just by the side thing. That's a by the way, or as the Germans would call it, nebenbei. Just so you know. Don't need to keep that in mind. Unless, of course, you want to work in 10,080 frames. In that case, you can divide it into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 12, 14, 15, and so on. It's great. I know. Thanks.
I think my mind is going to explode.
Anyway, back to Adobe. It's like, yeah, I know. Let's start out with some footage from Adobe stock. And of course, since I wasn't expecting to do the stream today, I haven't licensed the footage quite yet, but that's okay. We can still work with it. So I will start out walking, if I can type. Apparently I can't. There we are. So what I'm looking for is a person walking from one side of the frame to the other. And of course, I'm looking for videos, since we are working in After Effects after all. So let's see if we can perhaps find a static shot, ideally, where one person is walking from left to right. And that's interesting, but not what I want. So let's have a look. That's cool. Yeah, we could use that, perhaps. Just scanning through. Green screen footage can always be really useful. Or we can try typing walking left to right. Let's see what Adobe Stock can do. Well, that's easy. There we go. Should have just typed it in. Easy as that. Okay, I think we will start with this one. So let's check that one out. Well, that one is also nice, but I think we will stick with this one. And I will download a preview version of this, which takes just a second. And now we can take that file, bring it into After Effects and onto a new composition. Of course, I could also create a new composition based solely on that footage. If I drag it over here and click and just let go, After Effects will create a composition based on that image. And I guess, yeah, why not? We can also use that one and save our Time Lords composition for later. Sure, why not? So let's have a look at this composition. Let's let it play. And I will scale this up to fit so we can have it a bit bigger. And we can see people walking from left to right. How interesting. Okay, so let's now have a look at how we can possibly change that, that time. Perhaps we can make it move backwards. Perhaps we can move some parts of the image in different speeds, or different, actually, offsets, rather, speeds. Okay, So, Robert, how could you possibly do that?
Actually, as with all things After Effects, there's multiple ways. So for one, you can choose the time stretch or the time. Actually, there's the. I just need to translate it in live because I'm using mostly the German version of After Effects, which I get a lot of heat from my friends and coworkers. But anyway, so I think it's Zeitverkrümmung, which is time stretching, right? That's the middle one. You can use that, or you can use time remapping. So it's actually multiple ways, and there's also an effect that you can use that you can put it on to the layer. So they both have their pros and cons. Some of them are more intuitive, I would say, and some of them are not as intuitive. So maybe we can go through both of them.
That's exactly my plan. Right. So let's start with the easy one, which is time remapping. So if you haven't seen it, it's under Layer, Time, and Enable Time Remapping. If I click on that, two things will happen. First of all, we will see a new property pop up below the layer, and it will also set two keyframes, one at the very beginning and one at the very end. These keyframes essentially just say, hey, this frame should play at this time. And of course, since this is our starting frame, it's at this very start of the video, and well, the end frame is at the very end of the video. And if we use the feature to create a keyframe, add a keyframe, set in the center, yep, indeed, we have another keyframe which just says this frame of the video should happen at this time in the timeline. Not very interesting because nothing happened. It looks exactly just like before. But here comes the cool part. We can now take those keyframes and move them. So what would happen if I perhaps move this keyframe over to the left? First of all, interestingly enough, I think the video provides also some masks, which is cool. But what actually happens is if I move really over here and play it back, suddenly they drank a lot of coffee and walk very quickly from one side to the other. So, in other words, we have shrunk the time. We've made it faster in this portion over here and stretched it out in that portion over there.
So technically you're telling everything that happened from here to there. So this chunk should happen only in this time.
Exactly. Right? What used to take this long, this long, now only takes this amount of time, like in the timeline. Therefore, it happens faster. Okay. And of course, if I stretch it the other way, watch what happens. It takes much longer. It's like on a Monday morning. Okay, so it takes longer. Great. Of course, now we don't just have to add one keyframe. We can add more than one keyframe. So let's say we want to have like a time ramp effect. As you can remember, like that was like a very hot feature back in the days when Apple first introduced it. Like you had the slow-mo, it was normal footage, and suddenly it went slow-mo, and then it came back up. So how could we do that? Well, let's say we want to have this part here, this middle section, we want to have that in slow-mo. Okay, easy. First of all, I will set a keyframe over here, where it is supposed to start. Then I will set a keyframe, I would say right here perhaps. And there we are. And now I can just either, if I want to, I can move them out like this. And now we indeed have a time ramp. Watch this. Right? Very cool. And, or I can, if I wanted to, I can make it faster. Boop, 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 boop. Let's make it even faster so we can see the difference. Isn't that cool? All right. So, as we can see, we can modify time. And let's see if that works. Yep, indeed. Since I've just moved that keyframe, which was previously on the left.
Can you put it again just to see what it happens after it moves past the keyframe?
Yeah, so for now, we only have moved in one direction.
Right.
One direction of time, only forwards. But nobody's stopping us from taking a keyframe where After Effects knows, like, okay, at this time, play this keyframe. But nobody's stopping us from moving that keyframe after a later keyframe. So what's now happening, After Effects is moving forward to the late one, then sees the next keyframe, which is before the other one. So it says, okay, I will just move back. Whoop, moving back. And after it has moved back, it will then start to move forward to the next keyframe. So this is how it looks like. Boop. Boop. Very interesting. So now we can go back in time. How could we possibly use that? Well, maybe, just maybe, we could use that keyframe. If I just get rid of that, because nobody says we have to keep that keyframe at the end. And if we don't, by the way, it just stops, because the last information After Effects has is this keyframe, and after that, it doesn't know what to do with it. So it says like, okay, I give up, I stop. Just stop it here. So,
and also make sure, also mention that, I don't know if you mentioned it, but you see that in the time remap, where you see the time code on the left, if you move the cursor to the left, you see that is the corresponding time that this keyframe has saved. So at this is the actual time, but you can see that the time on the top of the actual timeline is the actual display timeline.
Yeah, so I have an eye on this one and that. And if I move forwards, you will see this one will go backwards. If I scrub over it, I guess, then it updates. 5, 4.
Exactly.
While this one is still going up. Very interesting. Okay. So, like I said, now, because After Effects doesn't have a keyframe where it's supposed to move to, it just doesn't do anything at all. Now, could we possibly use perhaps a loop expression to loop the time? What do you think? I've never tried this. So let's...
It's a good question. Technically, it should work.
Let's try it out right now.
Because it's just like a keyframe, right?
So, Option click or Alt click on the Windows on the stopwatch. And we can just say, I think it should be loop out. And if we don't set any properties, let's see what happens. What I predict is going to happen now, they will move from one side to the other, then quickly go back and start again. I think that's what's happening. Let's see. Yes, indeed. But how could we, what if I want to have it like going back and forth and back and forth? Like, you know, like, what could be a possible analogy for that one? Perhaps a sports related one? Oh yes, like ping pong. See what I did there? How could we possibly do that? Yeah, I have no idea.
Or tennis.
Like tennis. Oh dear. Yeah, perhaps we can move it in a way so that it behaves like ping pong. Now I have to remember if it was 1. It was indeed 1. Uptick, ping pong. Yes, thank you, After Effects. Let's see what happens. Hopefully it works. Aha! Isn't that interesting? Right? So now they're dancing, they're moving backwards, and if we set them even.
I didn't know the ping pong expression, Tim. I must confess.
Render, just need some music. Do the Adobe dance. Right. In fact, yep, there are more features than the loop out function has to offer. Like, we also have the cycle, which is, by the way, if you don't set any property, this is the default one. We have offset. We have also continue. And I think we talked about that in the last stream with... Yeah. One of the last streams we talked about that. Can't remember which stream it was now. Charles Carter, that was the one. Yeah, we talked about that. the last time. But if you want to, chat, let me know. If you want to know more about those four properties, perhaps we can talk about that. Otherwise, I would just move on. So chat, let me know.
Is there a good reference for scripts and expressions?
Why, of course there is. It's of course on the help.x.adobe.com. Hopefully that is the domain I'm thinking of. Yep, it is. No, I don't want to go to the German website. Thank you, Adobe. Very kind. And I think, where's After Effects? After Effects, there we are. Or we can just go to Loop Out. And with a bit of luck, the timeline in After Effects. Interesting. Support. Yep. And then we can get all the information. And I think there's even like an
expression overview.
Yeah, and a reference somewhere. Of course, I don't have that one bookmarked. Usually I just have a look for that, but yeah.
You know what? Since we have swapped our tasks, I will look for that while you continue on.
But look at that. There are some really cool basic expressions. Oh, time. I wonder if we were going to use that. Like, who knows? Loop. Ooh, interesting. Look at that. Right. So, yeah, there definitely are some expression basics. And as I think this is the one I was looking for. We can see like expression automation, understanding the language, using expression controls, blah, 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 expression examples, perhaps. No, I don't want to look that up. Thank you. And you get some really cool things. And I think we will also have a look at some of them if we want. Perhaps like an expression crash course chat. What do you think?
That would be nice, actually. I would join that one because I have limited expression knowledge.
So
although the most common ones obviously are often used, but I mean it's so powerful if you look at what you can do with expressions. I mean, you could technically do animations even without a keyframe, right?
Yeah, there's some really cool things in there, like, for example, how can you create a long shadow and have a rotary dial where you can set the direction of the shadow. It's like very interesting, very interesting. Perhaps
okay.
If you're interested, we can
let us know what you think.
We can have a look.
You want to see an expression theme stream? Expression theme stream.
Okay, right. Back to the topic at hand. We now have mastered the expression time. By the way, just want to say, now that you said mastering the expressions, I wonder if we could do one thing. Enable time remapping. If we could say sign, or was it math.sign? No, I don't remember. I think it was math.sign and time times 40. And if we set that, now I'm just really messing around. I don't know if this is going to work. I guess we'll see.
By the way, I posted the link to the help document that starts with the expression language references into the chat.
Okay,
gives you a
very cool.
Good start.
Thank you. Very nice. Very kind. Now I'm just really messing around because I want to see if we can add some expressions to that time remapping as well. And yes, we can. Now they're moving back. They're slowing down and going back based on this expression. Isn't that cool? So if you're interested, let us know if you want to see something that's related to this. Anyway, now that we have mastered time remapping, I was looking at this footage that I just found, and I've noticed the person on the bottom is slightly faster than that person over here. And I don't think that's fair, because clearly this person doesn't have like the suit jacket on, of course, so they are faster.
That's the reason.
So that's unfair, in my opinion. So why couldn't we perhaps have this person be the winner? Because I think they're carrying the most weight on their back. So just making up a reason to talk about different time stretching on different parts of the composition. That's all I want to talk about. And pizza too, but this is hardly the stream for that. So let's get rid of that effect, bring it all back to normal. So if we play that back, it should be back to normal. There we are. That's great. And now let's talk about the time displacement effect, which of course is sitting, as we all know, in the Effects and Presets panel. And if we type in time, indeed, we can see time displacement. There it is. By the way, if you were ever wondering what posterized time is and why that effect can be really useful, this is essentially like a quantized time effect. It's like posterized, but not for colors, but for time. In other words, you can just set the frame rate of a composition. So if you want like only 5 frames, there you go. This can be really useful. This can be really useful for wiggle animations. And perhaps, like, yeah, we can talk about that in the expressions stream. But if you ever wanted to set the frame rate of just one layer, this is how you can do that. So no, this is not lagging. This is actually playing in real time now. Okay.
It's actually, I have this idea, Tim. If you remember the stream I did with Melanie for the Olympics, you know, a couple of weeks ago, we were discussing the idea of having the little wiggly in every, because in animation you have this animate on twos, for example, where you only have every second frame animated. So for movies, it would be with 24 frames per second would be 12 frames per second. If you look at this, which is based on 30, it would be like 15 frames per second. So this way you could actually match footage to drawn animation as well, or you could use this as a stylistic effect to create this effect of you know, something being a little bit jaggy and not super smooth.
Yeah. And you often see this if someone animates like some textures, perhaps, and they are moving them with wiggle. You don't want to have like these super smooth movements. You actually want this like, and instead of using hold keyframes for this, you can just use posterized time. Anyway, that's not what we wanted to do today, because I wanted to talk about time displacement. Excuse me, time displacement.
That's so unfair. I cannot do this, right?
Okay. Time displacement. How does this effect work? This is one of the few effects that actually requires some other input than just the layer. And we've talked about that in the particles stream last time, where we had a look at the normal displacement map. Just bring that back. You can also see, yep, indeed, there is an input for a layer. So what does the time displacement effect do? Previously, or 5 minutes ago, we were looking at changing the time on all of the composition at once, like everywhere at the same time. So in other words, this pixel up here always was this color at the same time as this pixel down here, or that one, or that one, or this one, or that one. So the area over here will only change at the same time if that one over here does as well. In other words, we can't have two things happening at different times. But maybe we can. And yep, indeed, we can with this effect. But we have to tell the effect, hey, where should the displacement happen? Where do you want different sampled frames from different parts of the composition? At which time and where exactly? And you can do that using a mask, a map, so to say. This is very similar to the layer masks in Photoshop, where you have like black and white. And in this case, we will actually use just another layer, so new, solid, and we will make that one black. Doesn't matter at all. By the way, I'm not sure if I've talked about that. I really like how if you change the color, the name of the comp also changes. Like, it's just the little details. Deep turquoise, cyan, royal blue. Like, okay, royal blue, clearly different from just blue. Thanks, After Effects. Anyway, let's make that black, and let's call that one. We don't have to name it, but I will do anyway. Time displacement map. And yep, that's all good. And click OK. Right. And now we have to create a map. And a map is really just an image. And yes, I could do this in Photoshop. I could do this in any other app that can create an image, even in XD if I wanted to. I could even load up MS Paint and create my map. However, since we are in After Effects, I thought let's just make it in After Effects. And for this, I will create a gradient ramp. There we go. Apply that. And posterize, not posterize time, but posterize, so I can get those stripes. And I would like to have 3 stripes. There we go. I can hide that now. And select this time displacement layer as a source for our effect. Nothing is happening though. They all went away. Well, we have to make sure that in the properties we also say that, yep, effects and masks, please consider them, because otherwise it would just look at this displacement map without any effects, which just would be black, and that's not good. So we actually have to say, hey, also apply those effects and then have a look at that. You could also pre-compose the layer and then you don't have to set it to effects and masks in this effect, but that's okay. So,
but actually, that's a good point, Tim, with the pre-compose thing, because that's one of the things that actually will clutter up After Effects in terms of your organizational structure, as well as being able to quickly navigate in files. So, for example, for this, and I'm sorry, Tim, for this simple file as it is right now, it would be quite easy to obviously go into a pre-comp, but imagine having an After Effects project file with 20, 30, or even 100 compositions. You really try to minimize any added extra composition as much as you can. And that's why this has been introduced into After Effects a couple of years ago, is that you can actually use that layer by maintaining all the effects that are in there, by making sure that you click on effects and masks. So
who are you calling simple? Yeah, thanks, Sean.
Yeah, I saw that right now.
Throwing shade.
Burn.
Burn, dodge, and burn in one go. Anyway, so now that we gave After Effects some time to render this one, let's have a look. And oh my god, would you look at that? Before and after. We've made it worse. Oh dear, what's happening? Well, first of all, let's have a look at what is happening in the first place. So, this map, essentially, it's like, it's telling After Effects, where do you want to sample the frames from? White means sample it from later, sometime later in the timeline. So, well technically earlier. Well, it's from later, but it's happening early. It's very confusing. It's just sample it from over here, right? And that's the reason, because the white means sample from over here. That means this person is already a bit further to the right, since it's sampling from here. Black, on the other hand, means sample it from somewhere earlier in the timeline, so from over here, which means, since those people were on the left side, if we sample from there, everything is going to move to the left, which of course, since this is a flipped image, to this side, over there. It's not helping that my camera is flipping my image and I have to move my hands in this direction to show over to that side.
Tim, Joel had the perfect name for that. It's not the time displacement map, it's the time traveling map.
That's it. We're time traveling. We're becoming time lords and ladies. And everything in between. Okay. So, how could we possibly make sure that this part of the image or the video is sampled from later and this one is sampled from earlier? So, if you understood what I had said just a moment ago, I think you could have an idea how we could possibly do that. Any ideas in the chat? How we could make sure this person is over here and that person is over there. Thinking, coming up with an idea. Flip the map.
Sean says flip the map.
Interesting. Very good idea. We could just say, hey, I don't want this part to be black. I want it to be white. This part can stay gray, doesn't matter. And this part down here should be black. Of course, now we have many different options to do that. Either we could invert the layer, or we could move those anchor points around, or we could just, I think that's what I'm going to do. I will just swap those colors. There we are. Now black is at the bottom, white is at the top. Let's now have a look at what's happening. And indeed, huzzah! It is working. The person at the top is now moving much quicker. Or, well, not actually quicker. He's still moving at the same speed. But we're looking at a time which is happening usually later. And we've moved it forward. And now, indeed, just as we wanted to, he is reaching the right side of the frame first. And I think this is just such a cool effect.
Tim, I want to point out that since we have very curious and smart people in the chat and in the community, Stuart was very quick to say if it was smoother, then everything would be glitchy looking, right? And then Sean, of course, chimes in and says it's a good question, which it is.
You are so right, because that would have been my next point. I wanted to say, like, it's very interesting that, of course, I've picked 3 stripes, because, I mean, I kind of had a guess, or to be fair, this video actually was, I just found that, but I picked it for the reason, because I could see that if I separate them in 3 exact stripes, I could make it happen like this. But you are very right. What happens if I remove this posterize effect? Well, let's have a think about that first before we have a look at what's happening. Now, we have a smooth transition from white to black. So, this part should happen late in the frame, in the composition. This one should happen still late, but slightly earlier. Slightly earlier, and so on until we are at black. So, in theory, we should see some sort of smooth transition, I think. So let's have a look. Ooh, and yes, indeed, we can see a very, let's just focus on one person, a very interesting effect. And let's just let that play. Like, okay, clearly
that's interesting.
We have some issues over here. I think everyone can see that, right? So what's going on? Well, we haven't looked at the settings of that effect yet. We've just applied our displacement map and just let it go. But there are two very important settings in there. First of all, we have the max displacement time. And to explain what that does, I will actually set this one back to posterize, because this makes it much easier to see what's going on. So let's change the max displacement time. If I increase that, I think we can all see what's happening. The maximum amount of time the displacement map filter will displace the time has just been increased. In other words, this is usually happening much later in the video, and this is usually happening much earlier in the video. If I decrease the effect...
Do you know what value that is, Tim? Is it like seconds or frames or percent
seconds.
Or seconds?
I mean, we can try that out. It takes this person exactly about 13 seconds-ish. So what happens if we set that to 6.5? No, not 65, 6.5. Interesting. 6 seconds in that direction, 6 seconds in the other direction. Very interesting. So from middle gray to white, it displaces 6.5 seconds in one direction, and from middle gray to black, it displaces 6.5 seconds in the other direction. So middle gray is the original one. So in theory, if we change this one, yep, it barely moves apart from some slight artifacts which happen because of that filter. So middle gray is the middle one. It's like those soft light layers. Nothing changes.
It's basically real time.
It's essentially real time, yeah.
More or less, yeah.
White would mean we move it 6.5 seconds into the future. Black means we have a look at what's happened 6.5 seconds in the past. And that's why now, indeed, they are at the very end of the frame. So that's time displacement. If we set that back to just like 1 second, we can make it a really close race, or if we want to make it super obvious, then yeah, of course, 9 seconds. There we are. Okay, so that's time displacement. What is time resolution? This is how many frames it should calculate. Essentially, more frames just means it takes longer. Fewer frames means it's much faster, but it will look choppy. So if, for example, I set it to 5 frames, you'll notice it renders much faster. Watch the green bar, just there we are. It rendered like that, but you can clearly see we have very choppy effects going on. That's okay for some, and of course, if we set it to 30, aka the frame time of the document, then we are good to go. And we can see it takes much faster. But for extra smooth motion, the default is 60.
But it's interpolating, right? So we need to keep that in mind.
Yeah, I mean, of course, because we are moving between frames, After Effects has to do some interpolation. So if you're looking for a true neutral effect, like the middle gray, then yes, there will be still some slight differences. So don't expect this one to be completely transparent. But
the best approach to play with, I mean, quality-wise, the best approach would be if you want to do something like this, shoot it at, let's say, 60 or 120 frames per second. You know, because speeding up footage is always easier than slowing down footage. It's the same principle as with scaling down stuff from a large image is easier than scaling up stuff, because wherever the computer or the software has to generate something where there isn't anything, e.g. pixels, either to size or to time, is always a quality loss, no matter how good it is, but it's always involved with a little bit of loss of quality. So imagine if this clip would be 60 FPS, we could play much better with slowing things down, or, you know, of course, speeding things up is easier. So that's something to keep in mind.
Yep, and I'm just trying something out. Just seeing if that is indeed working. There we go.
That's Tim. Joel just mentioned that if you could swap the project settings to 16 or 32 bits per channel, then this could also maybe avoid that, because you have.
Yeah, I just tried that.
Oh, you didn't? Okay.
That's what I wanted to look at, because we were working in 8 bits, but I think. I mean, that is supposed to work. You are very right, but I think I made some mistakes somewhere along the way. And since I wasn't expecting to do the stream at this time, I don't know what exact setting. But I promise you, I will have a look into that. And usually, you should be able to get rid of those choppy parts up here. But we will check that out, and we will get back.
But actually, we could make this because I think it was also I'm not sure who it was. Let me see. Because yeah, it was Joel also who wrote the keyword slit scan effect, which is actually a very interesting effect that you can also see, I think, in the new iPhone commercial. I think for the green one, you could see that if you want to see something with a slit scan effect. I think that's something that also, you can see right now.
Very similar to the rolling shutter effect. And yeah, but it's very, very cool. And we can you can really have a play around with the amount of time you want to displace. And you get all sorts of very interesting. Let's just set that to 24 to make it a bit easier to render.
Tim, can you try something for me, please?
Go on.
Go to the time displacement map, please. To our time travel map.
Yeah.
Sorry, to the layer.
Yeah.
And add some grain, please.
Some scatter. I've also
scatter.
tried that one already just while you were talking. And this indeed, it does help a bit. If I set the RAM scatter up, we get indeed something like this, but it gets very noisy. So it helps a bit.
Yeah, but what if you use it on purpose? Let's say, what if we just introduce horizontal lines that have different gray values?
Oh, so like a glitch effect.
Yeah, exactly.
That can work. We could do like a
noise and then
yeah,
either posterize or do a like a fast motion blur to horizontal, or I mean there's multiple ways, but I'm curious to see how it looks like.
No, it was, what was a path blur, was it, right? Or just a Gaussian. We can also use Gaussian blur and just use one direction. Just horizontal.
Exactly.
And by the colors, they don't really matter. After Effects won't care about them. It will just ignore the colors. There we go.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, it doesn't care. It's just, okay, it has colors.
I think, oh yeah, that's nice. Look at that.
That's cool. Just let it render for a moment. It's like a very windy effect now. Yeah. And perhaps you can also play around with a bit of posterize. Just a bit, so you can get these sort of effects. Or perhaps just 3. There we are. That could be cool.
Here's a quick disclaimer again. If you're watching this on YouTube and you're wondering why is there so many good comments in the chat, well, it is happening on Behance. So you can see the exact same stream that you see on YouTube. But if you hop on over on Behance, you will be able to chat with us and be part of the discussion and the brainstorming and the knowledge sharing and everything that is going on.
Exactly.
So please hop on over. I can see that the comment section is really going on quite well.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, we have made some glitch effects, but since we only have about 10 minutes, I wanted to show another cool effect with time displacement. So let's just close that composition for the moment and create a new one. And we'll call that one small and make it about, I think, 100 times 100 pixels without locking the aspect ratio, of course. And that will only take, how about 20 seconds? Click OK. Zooming in. Well, a bit more. There we go. Create an ellipse. Oh, first of all, create a solid. There you go, Tim. And call that one circle. Create an ellipse. And let's make that one the same color as on the inside. There we are. A bit thicker. And let's reduce the softness. There we are. And now, what I want to do is, I want to create an animation based off this effect. So let's just keyframe width and height. And this one will be math.sine time times about 20 and times 10. Okay, a bit more. How about times 25? Okay, 50. There we are. And actually, you know what? I will just create a quick slider control. And I could
I love that one.
Just parent that real quick. So instead of having to deal with guessing values, I can just add a slider. Set that to a velocity. Fast. Slower. Very fast. Cool, right? Okay. And plus 25. Okay, so now we have like a speed control instead of having to dial in the numbers by hand.
And Matthias was asking if you want to have it go in reverse. You would say, actually, sorry, Stuart was writing that if you want to get it in reverse, you would, of course, you can multiply it with minus, right?
Yep, if we wanted to do that, I can do that. And now I've just quickly copy and pasted the expression using the cosine instead of the sine, so we have this offset. And I've just realized that we are right in front of that expression window. I'm very sorry about that. Let's just move us up here. Now I have this effect, which just looks like this.
This equals my mouth seeing your math and expression knowledge. Like, wow.
And what I want to do now is I want to create a new composition. And I realize that this might look all very arbitrary. Why are you doing this? What's the reason behind all of that? But I trust me, it's going to get fun in a moment. So paste that here. Fit. And now we will use another cool effect, which is the reptile effect, CC reptile. And yes, it's spelled like that, reptile. And watch what happens now. Okay, interesting. 450 actually, I think. And expand left, another. Just never mind. Let's just do it rough. Don't need to be precise. Okay. Right. Interesting. And actually, I think we will just transform the anchor point of this one just to make it a bit easier to 0 and 0. Yeah, that's better. And of course, we have to set this to 500. Nope, 500. That's it. All right. Okay, I think we're getting there. Change this to 500 and 400. Okay, cool. We're getting there. Now we have this animation. And what if I wanted to have this one animate different for every instance of these red circles? So let's say I want to have this one start and then propagate like a wave down. How could I do that? Well, I could try to animate every single one of them and then offset the layer by going in and, okay, and the next one, and the next one. But that's not very time efficient. And since we're all about saving time and moving time, let's use time displacement. And this is the only reason why I did all of this, because now we can go ahead and use time displacement to move some parts of the image. So let's do that. New, solid, the color doesn't matter. Let's use a gradient again. Gradient ramp, there we are. Set the start point here, the end point over there. Just getting messages, great. And set this one again to not posterize this time, but to mosaic. And yep, 10 by 10 that happens to be just what I want.
What a coincidence.
Right? Isn't that crazy? And now displacement, time displacement on this effect. And I think that might be a point where we actually have to pre-compose. But that's okay. Doesn't matter. Pre-compose. Maybe we don't. Now I'm wondering what's going on.
Hang on. Can you just
I think I forgot to move the effects down the pre-compose.
Exactly.
Yeah, I said that to leave all attributes. I want to move them all. There we go. Okay, that's it. I think now we're getting there. Yep, there we are. That's it. Right. Aha. Okay, I just realized I've moved them in the wrong direction, but that's okay. That's okay. Exactly what I wanted. And now we have this sort of animation that's going on in the other direction. And it's moving like a wave. Very fascinating. But the cool thing is,
looping.
It doesn't have to be a wave. It doesn't have to be a gradient like this. We can have like a radial gradient, perhaps, that's sitting in the center. So guess what would happen now? That's right.
That is trippy.
That cool, right? And of course, now that we have this, we can apply all sorts of different effects. Like, ooh, I don't know, how about a hue and saturation layer on this circle? Set the effects down here and set that one to colorize and automate the colorize hue by either just clicking here and saying times, I don't know, 20. How about that? Just guessing again.
Tim, our audience loves it. Jane writes, it's fabulous. Yulia writes, it's so cool. Annika is mind blown. And Stuart says it's a penny drop moment.
Right. And now we have this colorful animation. And if I were to calculate how much exactly I need, I could even make it seamless. But I don't care about that at the moment. So now we have the animation. And now guess what is happening because of the color change. That's, oh, yeah, that's it. No.
I had that.
I think we can just set that to third because it doesn't matter anyway. I just want to move quickly and we can see some color effects. But now remember, we had the displacement amount, how much time we want to displace. If I set that to a bit higher, perhaps like 3 seconds, 3.5, suddenly we get a whole different spectrum of colors because now it's sampling from a greater range of original colors. And I think we can really have some fun with that. And
you could parent this to slider control, and then you would instantly build your, almost like your create motion graphics plugin almost, you know, like easily.
Yeah. And guess what? It doesn't have to be a gradient. It can also be, like you said before, it can be some noise. So we can just pipe that into here, amount of noise, bring that one up. And, or perhaps let's try the fractal noise instead. Or, no, let's keep it with that and just set it to sharp colors. There we are, that's it. And suddenly we have this, okay, that's...
that's a little bit...
Let's, I think the noise is animating, that's the issue. So let's actually stick with fractal noise. There we are, that's it. Now we have this random movement. And just so you can have a really cool idea for perhaps playing around with this on your own, you can always apply more filters to the small comp and it will all propagate throughout the entire one. Like, I don't know, perhaps a mirror one. Set that one at 45 degrees. And in the very center.
That is interesting.
And watch what happens. Suddenly we get hearts. Oh, right.
Tim, you're ending on a high note, really.
You get beautiful hearts. And of course, then again, you could take the big composition, or you can create like only red hearts perhaps. Or if you know me, then you know that I really do like my glows. So yeah, of course, we will add some glows. Yes, why not? Make it glow. One more, and I think that is going to be the end for today. Just makes it a bit bigger.
I think you have to add the glow to the
I'm on the wrong layer.
Yeah, but it looks nice.
It's been a nice effect, but not what I want. I want the glow to be on this. There we are. That's it. Okay,
a
bit much.
Look at that neon life.
No, that's way too much. Yeah.
Melanie says no glows. It's so nice without. So there's the veto.
Of course, we will add some glow.
We will discuss this off stream.
Yeah. So there we are. Bit of glow.
Bevel those beauties. That's what Stuart asks for.
We could add some beveling. Yeah. But I think well, this is way too much.
You think?
Ha ha ha. Very funny.
You'll be killing me if you add the lens flare into that.
It's a bit too much. I may have overdone this, so I could indeed reduce some of that. There we are. Okay, fine. And yeah, like you said, like who said that with bevel and emboss?
That was bevel and emboss was from Stuart.
Stuart, well done. Some alpha bevel, of course. Yeah, easy. We can add some alpha bevel like this and play with that. Right. And suddenly we indeed get alpha bevel. And I think we're now at a point where we should certainly stop this before we make it even worse.
I mean, you've killed it really. It was really awesome. I learned a lot of things today. Yes. I hope that applies also to our fantastic audience today. It was a really active chat and really enjoyable to see all those kind comments. Reverb Mike says JJ Abrams wants more lens flares. So we'll keep that. Maybe we should do a lens flare stream, but also keep in mind the expression topic, because in fact I did ask about how many people would be interested, and quite a few were interested in doing something like that. So maybe we could do like an expression crash course, like with the most useful and most common expressions, actually, not very specific ones, but I think the loop one and the wiggle one obviously are the ones that come to my mind. So maybe we could plan that. But other than that, I think it was a fantastic stream, Tim. So thank you so much for enlightening us with your capabilities of time travel and what you can do with the time remapping, time stretching effects. So I think we're going to carry on Discord. And if you found this interesting, please let us know. And make sure to join our next stream. And have a wonderful day, everyone. Stay safe and healthy wherever you are, and hope to see you next time.
Yep, see you soon, and bye.
Bye.